Police ignored a single clue, and it almost cost a young woman her life. One tiny detail, hidden in plain sight, held the secret to a chilling mystery. Every second counted, but nobody noticed. Stay with us, because sometimes it's the smallest thing that can turn a life upside down, or destroy it completely. Before we begin, hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more true crime stories like this. It began on an ordinary Wednesday evening in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The sun had just dipped below the rooftops, casting long shadows across neatly trimmed lawns. To anyone walking by, everything appeared perfectly normal. But that evening, one young woman's routine walk would end in mystery, and the consequence of a single overlooked clue would echo far beyond that night. Megan Carter was 24 years old, living a life that, by all appearances, was stable, peaceful, and unremarkable. She worked at a small local bookstore downtown, spent her evenings reading or catching up with friends, and maintained close ties with her family. She was careful, methodical, and known among her friends for noticing details most people overlooked. Ironically, it would be this attention to small details that would make the one clue police ignored later so painfully obvious. That evening, Megan left her home around 7:15 p.m. to walk to the corner store. She kissed her younger brother goodbye, smiling casually, and promised she'd be back in 20 minutes. Her phone was charging on the nightstand. She didn't take it with her. Her brother assumed she would return quickly, as she always did, but she didn't. By 8 p.m., unease had begun to settle in. Her brother noticed the phone still charging and the quiet apartment around him. At first, he shrugged it off, thinking Megan might be lingering at the store or chatting with neighbors. By 8:30, worry had grown into alarm. The store had closed, and no one had seen her leave. Her absence was no longer explainable by routine. Police were called around 9 p.m. Officers arrived promptly, taking statements and scanning the nearby streets. They found no signs of forced entry at her home. Her belongings were untouched. Lights remained on. It looked on the surface like a voluntary disappearance. But there was one detail, small, almost insignificant at first glance, that would later prove critical. A neighbor reported seeing a black sedan parked awkwardly near Megan Street around 7:25 p.m. The engine was running, but the lights were off. It was unusual, out of place, and yet, at the time, officers dismissed it as probably nothing. Just a neighbor, they assumed. That observation was filed away, overlooked, and forgotten. By midnight, the search had expanded. Friends and family combed the streets, posted flyers, and shared her image online. The corner store clerk remembered seeing her leave at 7:20, but nobody had tracked which direction she went. The normally calm neighborhood had an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant hum of a street lamp flickering. Megan's parents were beside themselves. Her father, Richard Carter, a retired schoolteacher, kept pacing, replaying every detail of the day in his head. Her mother, Julia, repeatedly asked herself what they had missed, any tiny clue that could explain why Megan had vanished. But there were no arguments, no unusual phone calls, no cryptic messages. Nothing suggested she had left willingly. Megan's closest friend, Claire, later recounted in an interview, Megan wasn't the type to vanish. If she was running late, she would call. She was careful, aware, always noticing the small things around her. That's why this was so terrifying. Her neighborhood, although generally safe, had its quirks: flickering streetlights, inconsistent surveillance camera coverage, and occasional strangers passing through. Earlier that day, a black sedan had lingered near her workplace. Megan noticed it, but, polite and cautious, ignored it. By evening, the same car appeared near her street. Police assumed it was an ordinary vehicle. They continued their standard investigation, checking the house, reviewing her recent contacts, and speaking with friends. Nothing seemed out of place. No forced entry, no sign of a struggle, no credible threat. To them, it looked like a temporary disappearance. But Megan's family saw the gaps immediately. Hours turned into days, and the sense of dread only grew. Every routine detail suddenly felt suspicious. Her brother remembered the charger still connected, the shoes by the door, the open bag she had planned to take with her. It was everything she would have brought, and yet she hadn't returned. Days passed. The police investigation remained procedural and cautious. Witness statements were collected, but no immediate leads emerged. Then, something small was discovered. Near Megan's home, an abandoned jacket was found on a nearby bench. It wasn't hers. Police initially dismissed it, reasoning it was likely unrelated, a random piece of clothing discarded by someone else. But the jacket contained traces of a substance that didn't belong in that neighborhood, something that forensic analysts would later recognize as the first real thread of evidence. Weeks went by. Megan remained missing. The black sedan, once noted, was forgotten in police reports. Officers moved on to other leads, assuming she had left voluntarily, and gradually, the case started to grow cold. Her family refused to give up, posting updates online, holding vigils, and speaking with anyone who might have information. Then, a fresh investigator reviewed the case. Detective Lucas Reed was known for his meticulous approach. He started from the beginning, reading every statement, reviewing each overlooked detail, and revisiting the neighborhood. That's when the black sedan caught his eye. Unlike the initial officers, Reed didn't dismiss the witness account. He tracked local traffic cameras, interviewed neighbors again, and cross-referenced reports of similar vehicles in the area. Slowly, a pattern emerged. It led him to someone unexpected. A neighbor's friend who had access to the neighborhood but had remained inconspicuous. Further investigation revealed inconsistencies in his statements, minor lies that only made sense once seen in the broader context. The breakthrough came when they discovered the suspect had parked the black sedan near Megan's street on multiple occasions. The small, ignored detail, the engine left running while she passed by, was no coincidence. It had been a methodical setup, carefully designed to lure or observe her. As the evidence mounted, the true horror of what had been overlooked became clear. Had the original investigators taken the small clue seriously, had they investigated the black sedan immediately, Megan might have been found before the situation escalated. But the oversight allowed the suspect time to cover tracks, manipulate the environment, and ultimately evade capture for a longer period. By the time authorities had pieced together the sequence of events, the full scope of the danger had already unfolded. What began as a routine disappearance had turned into a carefully concealed crime, orchestrated under the nose of the community. Every minor detail, the timing, the vehicle, the empty streets, suddenly formed a narrative that was chillingly precise. Megan's story serves as a reminder of the critical importance of observation, diligence, and skepticism in investigations. Small clues, seemingly insignificant at first glance, can contain the keys to solving a case. One overlooked thread can change the trajectory of a life, or, in some cases, prevent tragedy from unfolding. The black sedan, the abandoned jacket, the witness's fleeting observation, these were the pieces of the puzzle that everyone else missed. Ignored, they became the gap through which the truth almost slipped away entirely. In the end, Detective Reed's persistence unraveled the case, highlighting that in investigations, attention to detail is everything. The small, ignored clue, the one tiny fragment of evidence dismissed by initial responders, had been the difference between resolution and tragedy. Sometimes it's the smallest detail that matters most, and sometimes ignoring it is the costliest mistake of all.